You know what's worse than finding out your husband is cheating? Finding out he's been lying about being sterile for 7 years while you pumped your body full of hormones and spent your life savings trying to give him a child he never wanted with you. My name is Zuri. I'm 34 years old. And this is the story of how I crashed my husband's gender reveal party for the baby he was having with another woman. Picture this: a backyard in the suburbs, pink and blue balloons everywhere, a table covered in cupcakes with little question marks on them, about 40 people holding their phones up, ready to capture the big moment. And there, in the center of it all, stands my husband Jamal, holding a giant black balloon with a pin in his hand. Next to him is Tisha, 26 years old, glowing, 7 months pregnant, wearing a white dress that hugs her belly like it's the most precious thing in the world. Everyone's screaming, "Boy or girl, boy or girl." Jamal looks at Tisha with this smile, this genuine, warm, excited smile that I haven't seen on his face in years. He kisses her forehead, the crowd goes wild, he raises the pin, pop. But here's the thing: no blue powder, no pink confetti. Instead, white papers start floating down like snow. Legal documents, bank statements, medical records. Tisha bends down, confused, and picks up one of the papers. Her smile disappears. It's a marriage certificate. Jamal's name, and mine. Dated 8 years ago. The music stops. Someone turns off the speaker. You can hear everything now. The wind, a baby crying in the distance, Tisha's breathing getting faster. Then I step out from behind the balloon arch. "Surprise," I say, my voice cutting through the silence like glass. "Congratulations on the baby, Jamal. I'd love to know how you managed that, considering you told me for 7 years that you were sterile. But let me take you back. 7 years earlier. Back to when I still believed in us. Jamal and I met at a charity gala. He was charming, ambitious, always talking about his big plans. Real estate investments, business ventures, building an empire. He said he wanted a family, a big one. 3, maybe 4 kids. A house with a backyard where they could play. He painted this picture so vividly that I could see it. I could see our future. We got married within a year. I was 27. He was 31. Everyone said we moved too fast. But when you know, right? Wrong. 6 months into our marriage, I stopped taking birth control. We were ready, or so I thought. Month after month, nothing happened. No positive test, no double lines. Just my period arriving like clockwork, each time feeling like a personal failure. After a year, we went to a fertility clinic. That's where everything started to fall apart. The doctor, Dr. Martinez, was kind but direct. She ran tests on both of us: blood work, ultrasounds, sperm analysis for Jamal. I remember sitting in that cold examination room, my feet in stirrups, feeling like a science experiment, feeling broken. 2 weeks later, we got the results. "Mrs. Thompson," Dr. Martinez said, looking at me with those pitying eyes that I would come to hate. "Your tests came back normal, completely healthy. Mr. Thompson, however," she turned to Jamal, "your sperm count is extremely low. The motility is poor. Based on these results, natural conception would be very unlikely." I looked at Jamal. I expected him to be devastated. Instead, he just nodded slowly, like he'd been expecting this news. "I figured," he said quietly. "My father had the same problem." I reached for his hand. "We'll figure this out together. There are options: IVF, donors, adoption." "I don't want a donor," he cut me off, his voice suddenly sharp. "If I can't have my own biological child, then what's the point?" That should have been my first warning sign. But I was in love, and stupid. So I pushed forward. I researched everything. Every treatment, every clinic, every success story I could find. I found a specialist in reproductive endocrinology, Dr. Hassan. He was expensive, very expensive, but he had an 82% success rate with couples like us. "It'll cost about $40,000 for a full IVF cycle," Dr. Hassan explained during our consultation, including medications, egg retrieval, fertilization, and transfer. Insurance typically doesn't cover this. $40,000. My savings from 5 years of working as a pharmaceutical sales rep. Everything I'd put away for our future, for a house, for security. I looked at Jamal. It's worth it, I said. For our family. He squeezed my hand. You're amazing, Zuri. I don't deserve you. He was right about that last part. The hormone injections started 2 weeks later. Gonalef, Menopur, Cetratide. 3 shots a day, sometimes 4. My stomach became a battlefield of bruises and welts. I gained 15 pounds from the bloating. My emotions swung like a pendulum. I cried watching diaper commercials. I screamed at Jamal for leaving dishes in the sink. And through it all, he grew distant. He stopped coming to appointments. I have meetings, he'd say. You know how important this client is. Or, my boss needs me to work late. Always an excuse. Always a reason why he couldn't be there when they were extracting my eggs. When they were pumping me full of drugs that made me feel like I was losing my mind. The first IVF cycle failed. No pregnancy. Dr. Hassan said it happens. Let's try again, he encouraged. Your body responded well to the medications. Another $15,000. Another round of injections. Another month of hoping and praying and crying. Failed again. Maybe you're too stressed, Jamal said one night, not even looking up from his phone. You need to relax. All this obsessing isn't helping. I'm obsessing, my voice cracked. I'm the one going through this. Where are you? Where have you been? He finally looked at me. His eyes were cold. I'm dealing with this too, Zuri. You're not the only one suffering. Then show up. Come to one appointment. Hold my hand when they're shoving that needle. I can't handle it, okay? He stood up, his voice rising. I can't sit there and watch them treat you like a science experiment. It's too much. Too much for him. While I was injecting myself 3 times a day. The third cycle. I was 31 years old. We'd been trying for 4 years. I'd spent $73,000. My body was exhausted. My spirit was broken. And Jamal started saying things. Cruel things. My mother keeps asking when she'll have grandchildren, he said one morning over coffee. I don't know what to tell her anymore. Tell her we're trying, I said, my voice small. We've been trying for 4 years, Zuri. He looked at me like I was a disappointment. At some point, you have to wonder if this is God's way of saying you're not meant to be a mother. I felt something crack inside me. What did you just say? I'm just being honest. Maybe your body knows something we don't. My body is fine. The doctors say a lot of things, but here we are, thousands of dollars later, and still no baby. He stood up, grabbing his briefcase. Maybe you're not woman enough to give me what I need. Not woman enough. Those words echoed in my head for days, weeks, months. I started wearing baggy clothes to hide the weight I'd gained. I stopped looking at myself in mirrors. I felt like a failure, a defective wife, a broken human being. But I didn't give up, because that's what he wanted, wasn't it? For me to give up. To let him off the hook. To release him from this burden of a wife who couldn't perform the most basic biological function. So I took out a loan, $20,000 against our house. I scheduled a 4th IVF cycle. Zuri, we can't afford this, Jamal said when I told him, I don't care. This is our last chance. Your last chance, he corrected. I've made my peace with being childless. Maybe you should too. That's when I started to notice other things, small things that didn't add up. He was always on his phone, always texting someone. When I asked who, he'd say clients, or my cousin, or the guys from work. He started going to the gym more. New cologne, new shirts. He was taking care of himself while I was falling apart. One evening, I asked to use his phone to order dinner. Mine was charging upstairs. Use your own phone, he snapped, pulling it away. It's just to order Thai food, Jamal. I said no. He stood up and walked out of the room, taking his phone with him. That night, while he was in the shower, I saw his phone light up on the nightstand. A text message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I have something special to show you. The contact name was just T. My heart stopped. I picked up the phone. It was locked, of course. But that message sat there on the screen, glowing like evidence, like proof of something I'd been too afraid to admit. I confronted him when he came out of the bathroom. Who's T? He barely blinked. Terrell. From work. Terrell sends you heart emojis. It's a blue heart, Zuri. He's excited about a project we're working on. Don't be paranoid. Paranoid. Another word to add to the list. Broken, defective, obsessed, paranoid. I let it go. Because what else could I do? I had no proof. Just a feeling. Just this growing certainty that the man I married was disappearing, and I was too desperate to see it. The fourth IVF cycle failed. I was in the clinic bathroom when I got the call from Dr. Hassan's nurse. I'm so sorry, Zuri. The pregnancy test was negative. I sat on that cold toilet seat and cried until there were no tears left. 4 years, over $90,000, countless injections, procedures, hopes, prayers, all for nothing. When I came home, Jamal was in the living room watching football. It didn't work, I said. He didn't turn around, just nodded. Okay. Okay, that's all you have to say. What do you want me to say, Zuri? I told you this was a waste of money. I told you to stop. You told me. I could barely breathe. This was supposed to be our dream. Our family. He finally turned to look at me. His face was blank. Empty. Maybe it was never meant to be. Maybe it's time to accept reality and move on. Move on. Like 4 years of physical and emotional torture was just a phase. Like I could just flip a switch and be okay with never having the family we'd promised each other. That night, I made a decision. If this marriage was going to survive, I needed to let go of the baby dream. I needed to focus on us, on rebuilding what we'd lost. So I did. I stopped the treatments. I started going to therapy. I tried to lose the weight. I started dressing up again, cooking nice dinners, planning date nights. And Jamal? He seemed relieved. Happy, even. He was home more often, more attentive. For a few months, I thought we were healing. I was wrong. One Saturday morning, Jamal asked if he could borrow my car. His was in the shop, he said, just for a few hours. He had to meet a client across town. Sure, I said. Keys are on the counter. He kissed my forehead. Thanks, babe. I'll be back by lunch. He didn't come back by lunch, or dinner. He texted around 6. Client meeting running long, don't wait up. At 9 p.m. I called him, no answer. I called again at 10, straight to voicemail. At 11, I heard his car pull into the driveway. My car, technically. I met him at the door. Where have you been? I've been calling you for hours. My phone died. He pushed past me. I'm exhausted. Can we not do this tonight? Do what? Ask where my husband has been for 14 hours? He spun around, his face twisted with irritation. I was working. Zuri. Trying to make money to support us since you blew our savings on your fertility obsession. My fertility obsession. The dream he'd sold me on, the family he'd promised me. The next morning, I took my car to get it washed. I always kept my car immaculate. Jamal, not so much. When I opened the back door, I found candy wrappers, empty water bottles, and a crumpled receipt. I almost threw it away. Almost. But something made me smooth it out and read it. A Baby Bliss boutique, 1 gold trim crib, $200. Delivery to 45 Acacia Street. My hands started shaking. 45 Acacia Street. I didn't know that address. We didn't know anyone who lived there, and we definitely didn't buy a $1,200 crib. I kept searching. Under the seat, I found something else. A small card, cream-colored, with gold lettering. You're invited. Tisha and Jamal's baby shower. Join us as we celebrate our little miracle. Saturday, November 18th, 2 p.m. 45 Acacia Street. Tisha and Jamal. Our little miracle. I sat in that car wash parking lot, holding that invitation, and everything clicked into place. The distance, the new clothes, the locked phone, T, the blue heart emoji. He wasn't sterile. He never was. He just didn't want a baby with me. I didn't confront him immediately. I know that sounds crazy, but I needed to be sure. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Because if I was wrong, if there was some explanation, I would look like the paranoid, broken wife he'd been painting me as for years. So I became a detective in my own marriage. That Monday, I called in sick to work. I told my boss I had a stomach bug. What I really had was a gut feeling that was eating me alive. I drove to 45 Acacia Street. It was in Riverside Meadows, a suburb about 40 minutes from our house. The kind of neighborhood with tree-lined streets, well-maintained lawns, and minivans in every driveway. The kind of place where families lived. The house was a modest 2-story with blue shutters and a small garden in front. There was a car in the driveway, a silver Honda Accord, and on the porch there were packages, baby packages. I could see the labels from the street: diapers, a bassinet, a bottle sterilizer. I sat in my car 3 houses down, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying to understand how my husband could be furnishing a nursery 40 minutes away while I was still grieving the children I'd never have. I waited for 2 hours. Nothing, no movement, no Jamal, no mysterious Tisha. I came back the next day, and the next. On Thursday, I finally saw her. She came out around 10 in the morning, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater that couldn't hide her pregnant belly. 7 months, maybe 8. She was beautiful, young, glowing in that way. Pregnant women glow when everything is going right in their lives. She got into the Honda and drove away. I followed her. She went to a prenatal yoga class at a studio called Peaceful Beginnings. I watched through the window as she and a dozen other pregnant women stretched and breathed and rubbed their bellies. She looked happy, peaceful, completely unaware that her entire life was built on lies. After class, she met 2 friends for lunch at a cafe. I sat 3 tables away, hidden behind a menu, listening. "So Jamal said he's closing a big deal next week," Tisha said, sipping her herbal tea. "He wants to buy a bigger house before the baby comes, something with a yard and a good school district." One of her friends, a blonde woman with kind eyes, smiled. "He sounds amazing. You're so lucky you found him." "I know." Tisha rubbed her belly, her face soft with love. "He's going to be such a good father. He's already so involved, you know? He comes to every appointment, helps me pick out everything for the nursery. My mom loves him. Every appointment. Every single appointment." While I sat alone in Dr. Hassan's office, getting my blood drawn, getting my dignity stripped away, Jamal was holding another woman's hand, listening to another woman's baby's heartbeat, building a life with someone else. I left the cafe before I could hear anymore. I sat in my car and screamed, just screamed until my throat was raw. But I wasn't done investigating, not by a long shot. That weekend, Jamal told me he had a business trip, 3 days in Atlanta, a real estate conference. "Do you have to go?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, babe. It's important for the company." He kissed my cheek. "I'll call you every night." He left Friday morning. I waited until his car turned the corner, then I got in mine and drove straight to Acacia Street. I parked down the block and waited. At 2 p.m., Jamal's car pulled into the driveway of number 45, not in Atlanta, in Riverside Meadows. He got out carrying grocery bags and a bouquet of flowers. He looked relaxed, happy. He walked up to the front door and didn't even knock. He had a key. The door opened and there she was. Tisha. She threw her arms around his neck. He dropped the groceries and held her, one hand on her belly, and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. I watched them disappear inside. I sat there for 3 hours, watching their shadows move behind the curtains, watching the life he'd chosen, the life he wanted, just not with me. When I got home that night, my phone rang. It was Jamal. "Hey, babe," he said, his voice cheerful. "Just got to the hotel. The conference starts tomorrow morning. Miss you already." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him I knew everything. Instead, I said, "Miss you too. Have a good conference. Love you." "Yeah," I said. "Love you too." I hung up and vomited in the kitchen sink. The next phase of my investigation was the hardest part, because it meant admitting to myself that I'd been blind. Willfully, stupidly blind. I went through our financial records. Every bank statement, every credit card bill for the past 2 years. I'd been so focused on IVF costs that I hadn't paid attention to anything else. There it was, plain as day. Monthly rent payments to Riverside Property Management. $1,200. For 2 years. Purchases at Baby Bliss Boutique. Tiny treasures. Motherhood maternity. Thousands of dollars. A jewelry purchase from Tiffany & Co. $3,000. On our anniversary, when he'd given me a card that said, "Sorry, money's tight this year," medical bills from Dr. Sarah Chen, OB/GYN, prenatal visits, ultrasounds, a 3D imaging session, he'd been paying for everything, the house, the furniture, the medical care. And I'd been so wrapped up in my own grief that I never noticed money disappearing. But here's what really destroyed me. Here's what made me realize the full scope of his cruelty. I found a bill from Riverside Men's Health Center, dated 3 years ago, for a vasectomy reversal consultation. I called them, pretending to be Jamal's assistant, confirming his upcoming appointment. "Oh, Mr. Thompson," the receptionist said. "He hasn't been here in 3 years. He came in for a consultation but never went through with the procedure. Can you tell me what the consultation was for?" Just a moment. I heard papers shuffling. Yes, he wanted information about vasectomy reversal, but according to our notes, he ultimately decided against it because he was planning to start a family naturally with his current partner. Current partner? 3 years ago. That was Tisha. I hung up and pulled up Jamal's medical records that I had access to as his spouse. I'd never looked at them before. Why would I? I trusted him. There, buried in his file from 6 years ago, before we even started trying for a baby, was the record. A vasectomy. Elective. He'd gotten it done 2 months before our wedding. He'd never been sterile from low sperm count. He'd made himself sterile. On purpose. Because he didn't want children with me. And then he'd let me torture myself for 7 years thinking it was my body that was failing. Let me spend $90,000 on treatments that could never work. Let me inject myself with hormones that made me gain weight and lose my mind. Let me feel like less than a woman. While he was planning a family with someone else, I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by papers and evidence and the ruins of my marriage, and I didn't cry. I was beyond crying. I started planning. But first, I needed one more piece of information. I needed to know if Tisha knew about me. I created a fake Instagram account, found Tisha's profile. It was public, full of ultrasound pictures, belly progression photos, nursery decorating updates. I scrolled through the comments. Her friends, her family, everyone congratulating her and Jamal on their miracle baby. One comment from her mother caught my eye. "So happy you found a good man after everything you went through with Marcus. You and Jamal are going to be wonderful parents." After everything she went through. So Tisha had a past. A bad relationship, maybe. And Jamal had swooped in playing the hero, the successful businessman, the devoted partner, the man who would never hurt her. I clicked on her tagged photos. There was one from 4 months ago. Jamal and Tisha at what looked like a small ceremony. She was wearing a white dress. He was in a suit. They were cutting a cake that said, "Forever starts now." They'd gotten married. No, not married. He was already married. To me, he'd committed bigamy. He'd married another woman while still legally bound to me. I screenshot everything, every photo, every comment, every lie. Then I went through our shared credit card statements again. The one where he had an additional card that I'd given him years ago for an emergencies, Baby Bliss Boutique, charged to my card, Riverside Property Management, charged to my card, Tiffany & Co., charged to my card, even the wedding cake, $400, charged to my card. He'd been using my money to build a life with another woman, to marry another woman, to prepare for a child with another woman. I wasn't just the abandoned wife. I was the unwitting sponsor of my own replacement. I called my lawyer the next morning. Richard Kowalski. I'd used him when buying our house. He was sharp, ruthless, and expensive. "Richard, I need to file for divorce, and I need to destroy my husband financially." "Tell me everything," he said. I did, all of it. The vasectomy, the bigamy, the financial fraud, the fake business trip while he played house with his pregnant girlfriend/illegal wife. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Zuri, this is beyond divorce. This is criminal fraud, identity theft. Bigamy is a felony. You could have him arrested." I don't want him arrested, I said. Not yet. First, I want him humiliated. I'm listening. There's a gender reveal party this Saturday for his baby with Tisha. I want to be there. That's unorthodox. Can you have divorce papers ready by Saturday? I can have them ready by tomorrow. Good. Because I'm going to serve him in front of everyone he loves, in front of her family, in front of all their friends. I want him to lose everything at once. Richard chuckled darkly. I'll have the papers ready. And Zuri, document everything at that party. Video, audio, witnesses, we're going to bury him. The next few days were a blur. I quit crying, quit grieving. I became strategic, cold, focused. I hired a private investigator to document Jamal's movements. Photos of him at the Acacia Street house. Videos of him and Tisha shopping for baby clothes. Recordings of him telling his friends at a bar about his new life and how he was finally going to be a father. I contacted Tisha's parents on Facebook, pretending to be an old friend. Her mother, Patricia, was chatty. She told me all about how blessed Tisha was to have found Jamal, how he was such a provider, how they'd had a small wedding ceremony because Jamal's family couldn't make it from out of state. His family, who lived 20 minutes from our house, who I had dinner with every other Sunday. I withdrew money from our joint account, $50,000. What was left of my salary after he'd bled me dry, I put it in a new account under my name only. Then I canceled all the credit cards, the ones he'd been using to pay for his other life, every single one. I didn't tell him. I just waited. On Tuesday, he called me, panicked. Zuri, something's wrong with the credit cards. They're all getting declined. Really? I kept my voice innocent. That's strange. Did you call the bank? They said the accounts were closed. Closed? Maybe it's fraud. You know, identity theft is so common these days. I should call them and confirm. Can you do that right now? I have some things to pay for. Like what? Silence. Jamal, what do you need to pay for? Just work stuff. Client expenses. Can you just call the bank? Sure, honey. I'll call them right now. I didn't call them. I let him sweat. That night, he came home looking stressed. His phone kept buzzing. He kept disappearing into the bathroom to make hushed phone calls. I heard one through the door. Baby, I don't know what happened. The card just stopped working. No, I have money. I need a few days to sort it out. Please don't worry. Everything's fine. Everything was not fine. And it was about to get so much worse. On Friday night, Jamal told me he had to work late. I knew where he was really going. He was going to Riverside Meadows to help Tisha set up for the party tomorrow. I let him go, wished him a good night at work. Then I called Richard. Are the papers ready? Signed and notarized. I also took the liberty of filing a restraining order request and a fraud report with the police. They'll be executing a warrant for his financial records next week. Perfect. Zuri, are you sure you want to do this? Once you show up at that party, there's no going back. I thought about 7 years of pain. 7 years of feeling broken. 7 years of a man who looked me in the eye and let me believe I was the problem. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then I'll see you Saturday. I'll be waiting outside in my car. The moment you're ready to leave, we extract you. If things get violent, I'm calling the police. They won't get violent, I said. They'll be too shocked. Saturday morning arrived. I woke up early. I showered. I did my makeup carefully. Eyeliner sharp enough to kill. Red lipstick like war paint. I wore a black dress that fit perfectly. The kind of dress that reminded me I was still beautiful even after years of being made to feel ugly. I looked at myself in the mirror. The old Zuri was gone. The woman who begged for love, who apologized for existing, who believed she was broken. This new Zuri, she was going to burn everything down. I drove to Riverside Meadows. The party was starting at 2 p.m. I arrived at 1:45. The backyard was decorated exactly like I'd seen in my nightmares. Pink and blue everywhere. A table full of gifts. A dessert spread that probably cost more than our monthly grocery budget. And in the center, that giant black balloon. I parked down the street. Richard pulled up behind me. "You ready?" he asked through my car window. I held up the folder of divorce papers. "Let's go ruin a party." I didn't go to the party yet. I had one more move to make first. See, the thing about revenge is that it's not just about the final blow. It's about watching them squirm. It's about making them feel a fraction of the helplessness you felt. It's about justice served cold, slow, and deliberate. I'd cut off his credit cards 2 weeks before the party. Now I was going to watch him drown. That Tuesday after I canceled the cards, Jamal started making mistakes, real, visible mistakes. He came home that night looking pale. "Babe, I need to borrow some cash. Just $1,000 or so. I'll pay you back next week." $1,000? For what? "Just some work expenses that I need to cover until the company reimburses me." I tilted my head, playing the concerned wife. "Honey, you know money's tight right now. We're still recovering from all the IVF costs." His jaw clenched. "I know that, Zuri, but this is important. For my career." "How about you use your savings?" "I don't have—" He stopped himself. "I mean, it's all tied up in investments right now. Please. Just this once." I could have said yes. I could have given him the money and watched him use it to keep his lie afloat a little longer. But that would have been mercy. And I was fresh out of mercy. "I'm sorry, Jamal. I just can't right now." "Maybe ask your mom." The look he gave me was pure hatred, but he swallowed it down. "Fine, I'll figure it out." He did figure it out. He started selling things. I noticed his Rolex was gone first, the one his father gave him, then his PlayStation, his golf clubs, the leather jacket he loved. "Where's your watch?" I asked one morning. "I left it at the jeweler's for cleaning," he lied smoothly. But I knew. I'd been tracking his movements. He'd gone to 3 different pawn shops. I even called one, pretending to be interested in buying a Rolex. "Oh yeah, we just got one in," the guy said. "Nice piece." Guy seemed pretty desperate to sell it. Gave him $2,000 for it. $2,000 for a watch worth 8. Desperation has a price, and it's always lower than you think. Meanwhile, I was getting phone calls. Creditors looking for Jamal. "Mrs. Thompson, your husband is 3 months behind on his car payment." "Mrs. Thompson, there's an outstanding balance of $4,000 at Baby Bliss Boutique." "Mrs. Thompson, Riverside Property Management hasn't received rent in 2 months." I played dumb every time. "I'm so sorry. There must be some mistake. Let me have my husband call you back." Then I'd delete the messages before Jamal got home. The pressure was building. I could see it in his face, in the way he snapped at me over nothing, in the way he was always on his phone, typing frantically, his leg bouncing with anxiety. One night, his phone rang at dinner. He looked at the screen and his face went white. "I need to take this." He rushed outside. I followed quietly, standing by the window where he couldn't see me. "Baby, please, just listen. I know I promised the crib would be delivered, but there was a mix-up with the payment. No, it's not about the money. I have the money. It's complicated right now." Her voice was loud enough that I could hear it through the phone. Angry, scared. "Jamal, the baby is coming in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. We don't have a crib. The rent check bounced. And my dad is asking questions about your business. What's going on?" "Nothing's going on. I'm handling it. I just need a few more days." "A few more days. You said that last week. Are you lying to me?" "Of course not. Tisha, please. I love you. I love our baby. I would never—" "Then why does everything feel like it's falling apart?" "Good question, Tisha." "Great question." Jamal came back inside looking like he'd aged 5 years. He didn't eat dinner, just drank 3 beers and stared at the wall. "Everything okay?" I asked, all innocent concern. "Fine. Everything's fine." It wasn't fine, and I was going to make sure it got worse. The next day, I did something cruel. Deliciously cruel. I called Baby Bliss Boutique myself. "Hi, this is Zuri Thompson. I believe my husband ordered a gold trim crib for delivery to Acacia Street." "Oh yes, Mr. Thompson, the order is ready, but we're waiting for payment. The card on file was declined." That's what I'm calling about. I need to cancel that order. Cancel. But ma'am, it's already been custom engraved with the baby's name. What's the name? Jamal Jr. There's a $75 engraving fee that's non-refundable. Jamal Jr. He was going to name his son after himself. The son he told me he didn't care about having. The son he made me feel inadequate for not being able to give him. I swallowed the rage. Yes, please cancel it anyway. We've decided to go with a different style. All right, I'll process the cancellation. The refund will go back to the card on file. Actually, there is no card on file anymore. We closed that account due to fraud. Oh, well, in that case, Mr. Thompson would need to come in to sort out the payment situation if he wants to place a new order. Perfect. Thank you. I hung up and smiled. One more thing for Jamal to panic about. That evening, he got a call from the boutique. I was in the next room, but I could hear his voice rising. What do you mean canceled? Who canceled it? My wife. I don't have a... Yes, I'll come in tomorrow. No, don't throw away the crib. I'll pay cash. He hung up and screamed. Actually screamed, threw his phone against the wall, shattering it. I ran into the room. Jamal, what's wrong? Nothing, just work stress. He was breathing hard, his hands shaking. Do you want to talk about it? No, I need to be alone. He locked himself in the spare bedroom. I heard him making calls from his laptop, heard him begging someone, probably his brother, for money. I can't tell you what it's for. I just need $5,000, please. I'll pay you back next month. No, Zuri doesn't know, because it's complicated. Can you just help me out or not? Apparently not, because he came out an hour later looking defeated. The next day, I took it up another level. I called Riverside Property Management directly, asked to speak with the manager. Hi, this is Zuri Thompson. I believe my husband Jamal has been renting a property from you at 45 Acacia Street. Yes, Mrs. Thompson. Although we haven't received payment in 8 weeks now. We've sent several notices. I'm aware. The thing is, I need to inform you that any rental agreement my husband signed was done without my knowledge or consent. We're currently going through a legal separation, and I'm documenting all unauthorized use of our joint finances. There was a pause. I see. So you're saying you didn't authorize this rental? That's correct. In fact, I'm working with my attorney to dispute any charges made on accounts under my name. I wanted to give you a heads up that you may want to pursue Mr. Thompson personally for the outstanding balance. Mrs. Thompson, we have a lease agreement through March. If payment isn't received by Friday, we'll have to begin eviction proceedings. I understand. Thank you for your time. Eviction. In 6 weeks, Tisha would have a newborn baby and nowhere to live. I felt a tiny pang of guilt about that. Tisha was a victim too, in her way. She didn't know Jamal was married. She didn't know he was broke. She'd been sold the same fantasy I had, just a different version. But my sympathy only stretched so far. She was about to have a baby with my husband, and whether she knew it or not, she'd been complicit in my destruction. That Friday, Jamal came home looking like a ghost. I need to tell you something, he said. My heart actually raced. Was he finally going to confess? Was the pressure too much? What is it? I might need to take on a second job, just for a while. Money's been tight. Not a confession, just more lies. A second job? But you're already working so much. I know, but we need to rebuild our savings. After everything we spent on, on my failure, on my broken body. He couldn't even say it. Whatever you need to do, I said. Yeah, I support you. He looked at me with something that might have been gratitude or might have been guilt. Hard to tell with a liar. That weekend, I followed him again, not to Acacia Street this time, to a department store where he'd gotten a job working evenings, stocking shelves. My husband, who'd spent years bragging about his real estate deals and investment portfolio, was working retail at minimum wage to keep his double life afloat. I watched him through the window, wearing a red vest, lifting boxes, looking humiliated every time a customer asked him for help. This was the man who'd told me I wasn't woman enough, the man who'd watched me suffer and said it was God's will. Now he was working 2 jobs, selling his possessions, lying to everyone he knew, just to maintain the illusion of success. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I started leaving hints. Breadcrumbs of suspicion. Nothing obvious. Just enough to make him paranoid. I'd mentioned seeing a silver Honda like the one in our neighborhood. Isn't that the same kind of car you were looking at? Or I'd say, someone at work was talking about Riverside Meadows. Have you ever been to that area? I heard it's nice. Every time, he'd freeze for just a second, then recover. No, never been there. I'd bring up baby names casually. If we'd had a boy, what would you have named him? I don't know. Why are you asking me this? Just curious. Some people like family names, like naming a son after his father. His hands would clench, his breathing would quicken. He knew I was playing with him, but he couldn't figure out how much I knew. The week before the party, I escalated. I sent an anonymous email to Tisha from a burner account. Ask Jamal about his wife, ask him about Zuri Thompson, ask him why his family from out of state couldn't come to your wedding. Ask him where all his money went. I watched from down the street as she got the email. I'd timed it for when I knew Jamal would be there. Through the window, I saw her show him her phone, saw his face drain of color, saw him grab the phone, frantically typing a response. He stayed for 3 hours. I could imagine the conversation, the denials, the explanations. But it's probably someone from work who's jealous. You know I'm not married, baby. Someone's trying to sabotage us. When he finally left, he didn't come home. He went to a bar and drank until they kicked him out at closing time. I followed him the whole way. He came home at 2 a.m., stumbling drunk, and passed out on the couch. I stood over him, watching him sleep. This man who'd destroyed me so casually. This man who'd let me believe I was defective while he planned a life with someone else. I leaned down and whispered in his ear, even though he couldn't hear me. You're going to lose everything, and you're going to know that I'm the one who took it from you. The morning of the party, Jamal woke up early. He took a long shower, put on his best shirt, tried to look like the successful businessman Tisha thought she was with. Going somewhere? I asked innocently. Just meeting some friends. I'll be back tonight. Have fun. He kissed my forehead, a gesture so automatic and meaningless that it made my skin crawl. I watched him drive away. Then I got dressed, black dress, red lipstick, sharp heels. I looked like I was going to a funeral. In a way, I was, the funeral of my marriage, the death of the woman who'd loved him. I called Richard. It's time. I'll meet you there. Zuri, be careful. I'm past being careful. I'm going for blood. I drove to Riverside Meadows one last time. The street was lined with cars. The party was in full swing. I could hear music, laughter, the sounds of people celebrating a life that was built on my suffering. I parked and checked my reflection, checked my phone. I'd set it to record video. I wanted to capture every moment of this. I grabbed the folder of divorce papers, the bank statements, the evidence, all of it. Then I walked up to that house, past the balloons and the welcome sign that said, "Boy or girl, let's find out." I was about to give them an entirely different kind of surprise. I could see Jamal through the window. He was holding that giant black balloon, standing next to Tisha, smiling like he didn't have a care in the world, like he wasn't drowning in debt and lies and desperation. He thought he'd gotten away with it. He thought he could have everything. The devoted wife at home, the pregnant girlfriend, the fantasy of family without any of the real cost. He was wrong. I walked through the back gate into the yard. Nobody noticed me at first. They were all focused on Jamal and Tisha, phones out, ready for the big reveal. Someone handed Jamal a pin. "Speech first," someone yelled. Jamal cleared his throat, his arm around Tisha. "I just want to say, this has been the most incredible journey. Tisha, you've made me the happiest man alive. You've given me the greatest gift anyone could ask for. A family, a future, a love that I never thought I'd find. A love he never thought he'd find, while his actual wife was spending their savings on fertility treatments." And to all our friends and family here today, thank you for celebrating with us. This baby, whether it's a boy or a girl, is already so loved. I promise to be the best father I can be. To provide for my family. To never let them down. The crowd applauded. Tisha wiped tears from her eyes. That's when I stepped forward into the center of the yard. That's a beautiful speech, Jamal, I said loudly, my voice cutting through the celebration. Really touching. Just one question, though. Everyone turned to look at me. Confused faces. Whispers. Who is this woman? Jamal's face went from tan to ash white in 2 seconds. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Which family are you talking about? I continued, walking closer. The one you have with Tisha, or the one you have with me? Tisha's smile disappeared. What? Who are you? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the confusion, the fear starting to creep in. Part of me felt sorry for her. Part of me wanted to spare her. But that part was too small to matter anymore. I'm Zuri, I said clearly. Jamal's wife. We've been married for 8 years. Isn't that right, honey? The silence was deafening. 40 people frozen in shock. Jamal finally found his voice. Zuri, you're confused. You need to leave. This isn't... Confused? I pulled out my phone, holding up our wedding photo. This is us. 8 years ago. There's the date. There's the marriage license number. Want me to pull up the legal documents? Tisha's hand went to her mouth. No, that's not... Jamal, tell her she's lying. Tell her... Jamal looked between us, trapped, cornered, and like any cornered animal, he tried to attack his way out. She's my ex-wife, he blurted out. We're divorced. She's just crazy. She's been stalking me. Really? I smiled. That's interesting, because I have our joint bank statements from last month, our mortgage payment from 3 weeks ago. And this is my favorite. I held up a piece of paper. This is the credit card bill for the crib you tried to buy, the one for little Jamal Jr. Charged to my card. Want to explain that? Tisha stumbled backward, her hands on her belly. You're married? You're still married? Someone in the crowd, an older woman who must have been Tisha's mother, pushed forward. Jamal, what is going on? Mrs. Patterson, I can explain. Can you? I interrupted. Can you explain how you told me for 7 years that you were sterile? How you let me spend $90,000 on fertility treatments while you were planning a baby with her? Can you explain how you got a vasectomy before we even got married? Then convinced me that my body was broken. Gasps from the crowd. Tisha was crying now, her whole body shaking. Or maybe, I continued, my voice getting sharper. You want to explain how you used my money to pay for this house, this party, this entire fantasy life while I was injecting myself with hormones and feeling like a failure every single day. Jamal, Tisha's voice was breaking. Is this true? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. What could he say? I had evidence. I had truth. I had the one thing he'd been running from this entire time. Reality. Jamal's silence was an admission. Everyone knew it. The crowd started murmuring, whispers spreading like wildfire. He's married. She spent $90,000? He told her she was sterile? Tisha's mother, Patricia, grabbed Jamal by the arm. You told us you were divorced. You showed us papers. Fake papers, I'm guessing, I said, since our divorce was never finalized. Mostly because it was never filed. Jamal, did you want to tell everyone why you married Tisha while still married to me? Or should I? A man pushed through the crowd, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a polo shirt that barely contained his anger. Tisha's father. You married my daughter while you were already married. His voice was dangerously quiet. Jamal held up his hands. Mr. Patterson, please. This is a misunderstanding. She's a misunderstanding, I laughed, and it was not a kind sound. Which part is the misunderstanding? The bigamy? The fraud? The emotional abuse? Please, help me understand which felony you'd like to clarify. Tisha was sobbing now, her hands clutching her belly. Her friends surrounded her, shooting daggers at Jamal with their eyes. You said you loved me, Tisha choked out. You said we were going to be a family. We are. Jamal tried to move toward her, but her father blocked him. "Baby, please. I do love you. This is just what?" I interjected. "Just your wife crashing your gender reveal. Just the consequences of your actions. Just the truth finally coming out." I walked closer to the center of the gathering, making sure everyone could hear me. Making sure every phone that was recording captured this moment. "And let me tell you all a story," I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. 7 years ago, I married this man. He told me he wanted children, a big family. He painted this beautiful picture of our future together. So when we didn't get pregnant right away, I went to doctors. I got tested. Everything came back normal. And then Jamal got tested. I looked directly at him. His face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. The doctor said his sperm count was low, nearly 0. That natural conception was impossible. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. You trust your husband, right? A few people nodded. Tisha's friends were recording everything on their phones now. So I started IVF. Hormones injections 3 times a day. Procedures that made me feel like a science experiment. Gaining weight, losing my mind, spending every penny I had. $93,000 over 4 years. 4 failed cycles. And through it all, Jamal told me it was my fault. My voice cracked, just slightly. He said I wasn't woman enough. That God was telling me I wasn't meant to be a mother. That maybe my body knew something we didn't. He watched me hate myself, and he said nothing. He did nothing, except take my money. "That's not," Jamal started, but Patricia cut him off. "Let her speak." "Thank you," I said. So imagine my surprise when I found a receipt in his car 3 months ago. A receipt for a $1,200 crib, being delivered to an address I'd never heard of. And then I found an invitation to this party. I held up the crumpled invitation that I'd been carrying like a talisman. Tisha and Jamal's baby shower. I thought, how strange. How could Jamal have a baby shower when he's sterile? So I did some investigating. And guess what I found? I pulled out another document. Medical records from Riverside Men's Health Center, from 6 years ago. A vasectomy, elective, performed 2 months before our wedding. The gasps were louder now. Tisha's face was pure horror. He wasn't sterile from low sperm count, I continued. He made himself sterile, on purpose, because he didn't want children with me. He just wanted my money. And then, I walked over to where some of the baby gifts were stacked. 3 years ago, he went back to the same clinic for a vasectomy reversal consultation, right around the time he met you, Tisha. Funny timing, isn't it? Tisha's legs buckled. Her friends caught her, lowering her into a chair. She was hyperventilating. So while I was destroying my body trying to give him a child he pretended he couldn't have, he was planning a family with you, using my credit cards, living in a house I was paying rent for without knowing it, building a life with my money while telling me I was a failure. I turned back to Jamal. How much of the baby furniture did I buy, Jamal? How much of this party? How much of your fake successful life did I fund? He finally found his voice, and it came out desperate. "Zuri, please. Can we talk about this privately? This isn't the place." "This is exactly the place," I shouted. "You wanted a celebration? A big reveal? Well, here's mine. The reveal is that you're a fraud, a liar, a criminal. You committed bigamy, financial fraud, and emotional abuse. And you're going to pay for all of it." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. "These are divorce papers. Filed this morning. I'm suing you for every penny you stole from me. That's $93,000 in IVF costs, $24,000 in rent for this house, $18,000 in baby furniture and expenses, and $3,000 for the engagement ring you bought Tisha with my credit card." Tisha's head snapped up. "What?" I pulled out the Tiffany receipt and walked over to her. Our eyes met. For a moment, I saw past my anger to the broken woman in front of me. She was a victim too, just a different kind. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I'm sorry he lied to you too. But this ring." I pointed to the diamond on her finger. "I paid for it, just like I paid for everything else." Tisha ripped the ring off her finger and threw it at Jamal. It bounced off his chest and fell into the grass. "You told me you were successful," she screamed. "You told me you owned properties. You told me you'd take care of us." "I will take care of you," Jamal pleaded. "I'm working 2 jobs now. I'm fixing this." 2 jobs? Tisha's father stepped forward. "You told us you were a real estate executive. You said you made 6 figures." I do. I mean, I did. It's complicated." "He works at Target," I said flatly. "Stocking shelves, minimum wage, has been for 3 weeks. That's why the rent checks bounced. Tisha, he's broke. He's been broke. He was never successful. It was all my money." The crowd was turning hostile now. Tisha's father looked like he wanted to hit Jamal. Several of the men in the crowd were flexing their fists. "You got my daughter pregnant?" Mr. Patterson said, his voice shaking with rage. "You married her under false pretenses. You're already married. Do you understand that's a felony?" "I can explain." "Explain." Patricia pushed forward. "You've been lying to our family for 2 years. We welcomed you into our home. We trusted you with our daughter. And you put her and my grandchild in danger." Mr. Patterson continued. "What if she gets evicted? What if the stress affects the baby? What were you thinking?" "I was thinking..." Jamal's voice broke. "I was thinking I could make it work. I thought I could fix everything before anyone found out." "Fix it?" I laughed bitterly. "You can't fix this, Jamal. This isn't a credit card you can pay off. This isn't a problem you can charm your way out of. You destroyed 2 women. You created a child you can't afford. You committed crimes. There is no fixing this." "Zuri, please." He actually started crying. Real tears. "I made mistakes. I know I did. But I love Tisha. I love this baby. I can't lose them. You should have thought about that before you married her while married to me." Tisha stood up shakily, her friends supporting her. She walked up to Jamal, and for a moment, I thought she might slap him. Instead, she just looked at him with such profound sadness that even I felt it. "Was any of it real?" she asked quietly. "Did you ever really love me? Or was I just convenient?" Jamal reached for her. "Of course I love you. From the moment I met you..." "Don't." She stepped back. "Don't lie anymore. I can't do this. I can't have this baby with someone I don't even know." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need you to leave. I need you out of my house, out of my life." "But the baby will be fine without a father who's a criminal?" She was crying hard now. "You think I want to raise a child with someone who could do this? Who could hurt people like this? What kind of father would you even be?" "A good one. I swear. I'll be a good father." "Like you were a good husband," I interjected. "To either of us." The balloon. The giant black reveal balloon was still tied to the fence, forgotten in all the chaos. I walked over to it and picked up the pin that Jamal had dropped. "You know what?" I said. "I think we should still find out, boy or girl. Let's give everyone what they came for." "Zuri, don't," Jamal started, but I was already raising the pin. "This is for every injection I gave myself, every doctor's appointment you missed, every time you made me feel like I was broken." I jabbed the pin into the balloon, pop, but like I'd planned, like I'd carefully arranged with the party supply company this morning when I'd broken in and switched the balloons. No powder came out, no confetti, just papers. White papers with black text. They fluttered down like snow. Divorce petitions, bank statements, medical records, copies of the vasectomy report, credit card bills highlighting his fraud, evidence, proof, truth. People scrambled to pick them up, reading with horror and fascination. The documentation of a man's complete destruction. "Boy or girl?" I said to the shocked crowd. "The answer is neither. Because Jamal Jr. is going to grow up knowing his father is a liar, a fraud, and a bigamist. Congratulations on your big reveal." Jamal sank to his knees in the grass, surrounded by the evidence of his crimes. Papers scattered around him like the ruins of his life. Tisha's father pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. This is fraud. This is bigamy. I want him arrested." "Wait," I said. "Give me 5 minutes first. I have one more thing." I walked over to Jamal. Crouched down so we were eye level. Spoke quietly enough that only he could hear. You told me I wasn't woman enough. That God was saying I wasn't meant to be a mother. Do you remember that? He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I want you to know something. I went to a new doctor last month, after I found out about your vasectomy. Guess what she said? He looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. She said there was never anything wrong with me. My infertility was likely caused by stress. Extreme, prolonged psychological stress. The kind of stress that comes from emotional abuse, from being told you're worthless every day for 7 years. His face crumpled. So, congratulations, Jamal. You were right. I couldn't have a baby, but not because I was broken, because you broke me. You did this, all of it. I stood up, looked at Tisha. I really am sorry. For what it's worth, I hope you and your baby are okay. You deserve better than this. She nodded, unable to speak. I turned to the crowd. The divorce papers are in the folder on the gift table. The police report has already been filed. My lawyer has all the documentation. If anyone needs to testify about what happened here today, please give your contact information to my attorney, Richard Kowalski. He's waiting outside. I started walking toward the gate. Zuri, Jamal called out. Please, don't do this. We can work it out. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. I stopped, turned back one last time. You want to know what I want, Jamal. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know what it's like to lose everything, to be humiliated, to be exposed as a fraud, to have everyone you love look at you with disgust and pity. I smiled, not a happy smile, a victorious one. And now you do. We're even. I walked out of that backyard, past the balloons and decorations and the ruins of a celebration, past the stunned faces and the whispers and the sound of Jamal sobbing in the grass. Richard was waiting by his car, just like he promised. How do you feel? He asked. I took a deep breath, the first truly free breath I'd taken in 7 years. Lighter, I said. So much lighter. Behind us, I could hear sirens. Mr. Patterson had made good on his threat to call the police. Are you ready for what comes next? Richard asked. The legal battle, the media attention if this gets out, it's going to be ugly. Let it be ugly, I said. I've been living in ugly for 7 years. At least now it's not my ugly, it's his. We drove away as the police cars pulled up to 45 Acacia Street. In my rearview mirror, I saw Jamal being led out in handcuffs, his head down, his $40 Target vest still on under his dress shirt. The successful businessman, the devoted father-to-be, the loving husband. All lies, all of it. And now everyone knew. 3 months later, I was sitting in a coffee shop when I got the call from Richard. It's over, he said. He signed everything. The divorce was final. Jamal had agreed to every term. He didn't have much choice. The evidence was overwhelming, and the threat of criminal prosecution for bigamy and fraud was enough to make him cooperate. I got the house. I got my $93,000 back, plus interest and damages. He'd be paying me monthly for the next 10 years. Not that I thought I'd see much of it. He was broke after all. But it was the principle. The bigamy charges were dropped after Tisha refused to press charges. She had bigger things to worry about, like a newborn baby and a restraining order against the father. Jamal Jr. was born 6 weeks after the party, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy, perfect, everything Jamal had wanted. He wasn't allowed in the delivery room, wasn't allowed to be there for the first breath, the first cry, the moment his son entered the world. Tisha's family made sure of that. I know this because Tisha called me 2 weeks after the birth. I almost didn't answer. What could we possibly have to say to each other? Hello? Zuri? Her voice was tired, strained. It's Tisha. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. It's okay. How are you? Exhausted, overwhelmed, confused. A pause. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know I didn't know about you, but I still feel like I owe you an apology. You don't, I said honestly. You were lied to just like I was. Maybe. But I got something out of it. I have my son. And you. You lost years of your life, your money, your ability to trust. I sat down on my couch, unexpected tears welling up. "How's the baby?" "Beautiful. He looks just like—" She trailed off. "He looks like his father." "I'm sorry." "Me too." She was quiet for a moment. Jamal tried to come by the hospital. Security had to escort him out. He was crying, begging to see his son. Part of me wanted to let him. Part of me wanted to believe he really loved us. And the other part? The other part remembered everything you said at that party, everything he did to you. And I thought, do I want my son to grow up like that? Learning from a man who treats people like they're disposable? What did you decide? I decided that my son deserves better. We both do. So I filed for full custody. Jamal can apply for supervised visitation when Junior is older, but for now— She took a shaky breath. "For now, it's just us, me and my baby." "That's brave." "I don't feel brave. I feel terrified. I'm a single mother with a newborn and no job and parents who look at me like I'm the biggest disappointment of their lives." "You're not a disappointment. You're a survivor." She laughed, but it was bitter. "We're both survivors, aren't we?" "The women Jamal destroyed—" "Not destroyed," I corrected. "Changed. There's a difference." We talked for another 20 minutes, about the baby, about healing, about the strange bond we now shared as victims of the same man. When we hung up, I felt something unexpected. Closure. Not the kind of closure that comes from revenge, though that had felt good too. But the closure that comes from knowing you're not alone, that someone else understands the specific kind of pain you've been through. I never spoke to Tisha again. We didn't need to. We'd said what needed to be said. But I did keep track of Jamal. Not obsessively, just curiously. The way you might check on a natural disaster years after it happened, wondering what remained. He lost his job at Target. Too much media attention after someone leaked the story to a local news blog. Local man leads double life, commits bigamy, while wife undergoes fertility treatments. The headline went semi-viral. He moved in with his brother for a while, then got kicked out when he couldn't contribute to rent. Last I heard, he was working as a delivery driver, living in a studio apartment in the bad part of town, still trying to get visitation rights with his son, still failing. His mother called me once, about 6 months after the divorce. "Zuri, please." "He's my son. He made mistakes, but he's suffering. Can't you have mercy?" "Mercy," I said calmly. "Like the mercy he showed me when he told me I wasn't woman enough? Like the mercy he showed when he let me believe I was broken? He's lost everything." "Good. Now he knows how it feels." She hung up. I never heard from her again. As for me, I spent the first month after the divorce just existing. No plans, no goals. Just breathing and remembering what it felt like to not have someone telling me I was worthless. I went back to therapy, a new therapist this time. Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in emotional abuse and gaslighting. "You've been through trauma," she told me in our first session. "Not just the infertility, though that's traumatic enough, but years of systematic emotional abuse designed to make you doubt your own worth. That's going to take time to heal." "How much time?" "As much as you need." It took a year. A full year before I could look in the mirror and not hear Jamal's voice telling me I wasn't enough. Before I could see a pregnant woman without feeling that hollow ache in my chest. Before I could trust that I was okay exactly as I was. During that year, I made changes. I quit my pharmaceutical sales job. I'd been good at it, but it reminded me too much of those years spent selling my soul to afford IVF. I went back to school for counseling. I wanted to help other women who'd been through what I had. I lost the weight I'd gained from the hormones, not because I needed to be thin, but because I wanted to feel strong again. I started running 5 miles a day, sometimes more. Each step felt like leaving the old Zuri behind. I dated, briefly. A kind man named Marcus who worked at a bookstore. He was gentle and patient, and everything Jamal wasn't. But I realized I wasn't ready. I was still healing, still learning who I was without someone else defining me. "I understand," Marcus said when I ended things after 3 months. "You've been through hell. Take your time." Thank you for being understanding. Thank you for being honest. That's rare. Honesty. Something Jamal had never given me. 2 years after the divorce, I was in a completely different place, literally and figuratively. I'd moved to a new city, Portland, rain and coffee and a fresh start. I had my counseling license. I was working at a women's shelter, helping survivors of domestic abuse rebuild their lives. Every woman I helped felt like healing a piece of myself. You really understand, one of my clients said to me, not just as a therapist, but as someone who's been there. I have been there, I told her, and I'm here to tell you that you can survive it. You can come out the other side. Did you come out the other side? I thought about that, about the woman I'd been and the woman I'd become. I'm still coming out, I said, every day. But yes, I'm on the other side. 3 years after the divorce, I made a decision. I wanted to be a mother. Not because anyone told me I should. Not to prove I could, but because I genuinely wanted it, for me. On my terms, I started the adoption process. It took 8 months of home studies, interviews, background checks, but finally, I got the call. We have a little girl, the adoption coordinator said, 3 years old. Her name is Maya. She's been in foster care since she was 18 months. Her biological parents' rights were terminated. She needs a permanent home. My hands were shaking when I met her. This tiny person with big brown eyes and braids tied with pink ribbons. She looked at me suspiciously, clutching a stuffed elephant. "Hi, Maya," I said softly. "I'm Zuri." "Are you going to leave too?" she asked. Direct, fearless. "No, sweetheart, I'm not going to leave." "Everyone leaves." "Not everyone. I'm going to stay." She studied me for a long moment, then held out her elephant. "This is Mr. Trunk. He doesn't like mean people." "That's good. Because I don't like mean people either," she nodded, satisfied. "Okay, you can stay." 3 months later, the adoption was finalized. Maya was officially my daughter. I didn't change her name. She'd lost enough already. She needed to keep the parts of herself that were constant. Being a mother was nothing like I'd imagined during all those years of IVF. It was harder, more exhausting, more frustrating, and more beautiful than I could have ever dreamed. Maya had nightmares, attachment issues. She would test me constantly, waiting for me to abandon her like everyone else had. "I hate you," she screamed one night after I told her she couldn't have ice cream for dinner. "Okay," I said calmly. "You can hate me. I still love you." "You're lying. You're going to send me back." I knelt down, eye level with her. "Maya, look at me. I am never sending you back. Never. You're stuck with me forever. Even when you hate me, even when you're angry, even when you test me, I'm not going anywhere." She searched my face, looking for the lie. When she didn't find it, she collapsed into my arms and sobbed. We were both broken. We were both healing. We were doing it together. 4 years after the divorce, I was in the park with Maya. She was on the swings, her laughter cutting through the afternoon air like music. "Higher, Mama, push me higher." Mama. That word still made my heart swell. I was pushing her swing when I saw him. Jamal. He was across the park, sitting alone on a bench. He looked older, tired, worn down by life in a way that made him almost unrecognizable. He was watching the playground, watching the children, maybe looking for his son among them, maybe just torturing himself with what he'd lost. Our eyes met across the distance. For a moment, neither of us moved. 4 years of silence and distance and separate lives condensed into one frozen second. I could see him start to stand, start to walk toward me, maybe to apologize, maybe to beg for forgiveness, maybe just to explain himself one more time. I turned back to Maya. "Ready to go get ice cream?" I asked her. "Yes." "Can I get chocolate?" "You can get whatever you want, baby." I lifted her off the swing, took her hand, and walked in the opposite direction, away from Jamal, away from that chapter of my life. He called out, "Zuri, wait!" I didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge him. He was part of my past, not my present, not my future. Maya and I walked to the ice cream shop, her little hand in mine, chattering about her favorite flavors. She didn't know who that man was. She didn't need to know. He was irrelevant to our story. That night, after Maya was asleep, I stood in her doorway watching her breathe. This child who wasn't born from my body but was mine in every way that mattered. Jamal had told me I wasn't woman enough to be a mother. Looking at Maya, at the life we'd built together, I knew the truth. I was more than woman enough. I was more than mother enough. I was exactly enough. Not despite what Jamal had done to me. Not even because of it. But separate from it entirely. I'd taken the broken pieces of myself and built something new. Something stronger. Something beautiful. And Jamal? He was sitting on a park bench alone, watching other people's children play. Watching the life he could have had if he'd been honest. If he'd been kind. If he'd been better. He'd wanted 2 families without paying for either. Now he had none. I closed Maya's door quietly and went to my own room. On my nightstand was a photo from her adoption day, both of us smiling, holding the certificate that made us official, a family. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I saw you today at the park. Your daughter is beautiful. You look happy. I'm glad. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday. J. I read it once, then deleted it. Some things don't deserve a response. Some people don't deserve your energy. Some chapters need to stay closed. I turned off my phone, got into bed, and slept peacefully. For the first time in 8 years, I had no nightmares, no dreams of injections and failed pregnancies and men who made me feel small. Just peace. Just the sound of my daughter breathing in the next room. Just the knowledge that I'd survived, that I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed him, though I had, but because I'd saved myself. And that was the greatest victory of all.